Hello everyone! Welcome back to my 100% walkthrough of Dragon Quest VI. How are you doing, my man, Skyzo?
I'm doing well. How are you two?
Now, here's something interesting. In the real world, with Murdaugh, Jamiris, and Grakos, all the towns that they sealed away, they destroyed the physical location of it. In this one, they did not destroy the physical location of Zenithia. They just sealed away all its inhabitants and just took up residence in the castle, so... keep that in mind for later, because that's gonna come into play at the very end. But for now, it got to rise back up into the real world, just like the other towns.
So is this the castle that we fought?
Yep.
Huh. Interesting. Well, I don't even know what happened still.
And there we are. We just went from the real world to the dream world. And by the way, here are 2 more dreamscapes. This might be one of those weird cases where there are dreamscapes that are exclusive to the DS version, but I'm fairly sure at least one of the ones we just checked are in the iOS and Android versions as well, so be sure to get those if you're playing that version. If you're playing the DS version, don't worry about it. They're pointless.
Sure. So, who's this?
This is King Zenith. In Dragon Quest IV and Dragon Quest V, you always visit the castle of Zenithia. Except this time it's called Cloudsgate Citadel, because they hadn't... In this point in the timeline, Dragon Quest VI comes before Dragon Quest IV, and then Dragon Quest IV comes before Dragon Quest V. So, the Armor of Orgo, the Helm of Sabath, the Shield of Valera, those are just called the Zenithian Sword, Shield, Armor, and Helm. So we're kinda in this point in the timeline before humanity had settled on names. So this is just Cloudsgate Citadel.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah. And what he told us there was that our horse had some kind of power that would allow us to reach the demon world so we can finally fight Mortimer himself. But its power has been sealed, so we're gonna unseal it. But before doing that, we're going to put Terry in our party and recruit someone. I'll bet you'll never guess who.
I really am not sure. I was thinking of possible characters, but maybe a dragon? I saw that on the thumbnail, but...
Yep, it's the dragon. So, it came back to life. It just regenerated. And it turns out it really enjoyed the smackdown it took from Terry. Like, it is in love with Terry now. It's a female. So now it's gonna fight for us.
It's a female dragon that's in love. Okay.
Yep. And you know how Terry just laid the smackdown on it in part 10?
Yeah, I do actually. That was a while ago.
Well, it turns out that was complete nonsense, because it is superior to Terry in just about everything that matters. It has higher strength, it has higher HP, higher resilience, and Terry has somehow forgotten like 90% of the spells that we saw him use throughout the story. He doesn't use the elemental slashes that he did in the cutscenes and in the boss fights. He doesn't have Kasap, he just forgot that somehow. And his stats are actually pretty unexceptional. Like, he's only like level 23, And he's in a tier 2 vocation, but somehow he got there before mastering warrior and martial artist, which you'd normally need to do. So he actually knows less skills than what a tier 2 class would normally learn. Like the game hypes him up to be this super powerful dude, but in actuality, he's kind of meh, except for really high agility.
Well, here's the twist. The dragon just let him win, because it was in love to begin with.
Okay, that is genius. Thank you for that, Skyzo.
Although, that doesn't explain why he forgot about some things, but...
Anyways, let's talk about this for a moment. I made Terry into a dancer, and I also made Lizzie, that's the dragon, into a warrior. I'm trying to teach it focus strength, because it's going to wield a really powerful weapon that focus strength makes really good. And Terry, I want him to learn something called dodgy dance. It's not normally helpful, but it has a very niche use against the final boss. So it takes 4 battles to learn that dodgy dance. And Terry is fairly high level, which is why we needed to grind there. Now, Lizzie is only level 5, despite how high its stats are. It just levels really slowly. So we're actually going to grind at the very start of the game. And we're going to get it the rest it needs to learn focus strength.
So, wait, what's the name of the dragon again? I'm confused.
Lizzie.
Dizzy.
Lizzie.
Oh, okay. Lizzie. Alright.
Or Drago in this translation. I like Lizzie better.
Sure. You mentioned that the dragon is better. I wonder if the dragon would stay on the team if we just don't have the guy with the blue hair. I forgot his name.
Oh no, you need him. You need him to recruit her. He needs to be at the front, because, you know, her eyes pinned.
Man, that is so strange. So I guess you're kind of balancing it, right? With a weaker character for a stronger one as well.
Kind of. Okay, so the dragon class. The dragon class is something that Lizzie starts with, and the boosts it gives to your stats are really high. Like, it's like 40% higher HP, for reference, which is part of why it's so good. And what we also want to do is we want to make Rex a martial artist, because at this point, his days as a melee fighter are done. He is just outclassed. And so we want him to have higher agility, so he can play more of a support role, with the Sword of Ramius, which casts oomph on people, with the Staff of Ghent, which heals people, and I think other than that, I think we're about set.
Interesting. You can only get 4 members into battle, right? At any one time.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Oh, and by the way, that Yggdrasil Dew that we just got, there's actually an infinite supply of them, but we can only carry 1 at a time. I don't think they really give an explanation other than they don't want you being greedy, but anyway, now we're gonna head into the dungeon.
Sure, I'm excited to see what the power of the dragon is like. Seems to be strong.
It's not strong like Carver. It has high stats, but it doesn't have the skills that we've learned. It's really helpful as a tank, and when you get something called the Hela's Hammer, which we'll show you later, focus strength Well, Focus Strength has a 100% accuracy mod, in addition to doubling to 2 timesing and a halving your next attack. So there's this weapon called the Hela's Hammer that deals automatic critical hits, but only has a 60% chance of whiffing. But if you combine it with Focus Strength, that turns into a 100% chance of hitting. So that's actually why she's super strong, in addition to just being really durable. She's not Carver, though.
Damn, not even a dragon can beat him.
Indeed. Also, do you see this boss troll?
Yeah, that's a nice sprite, to be honest.
It is. But the interesting thing about this is, in the Super Nintendo, you can recruit it. If you have a level 7-star monster tamer in your party, which we don't have, so we're not worrying about it, but if you're, say, following the text walkthrough, which has more class grinding for guys that aren't as good at this game as I am, it's something to consider. You might consider recruiting the boss troll, because its HP total is just bloated. It is bloated to absolutely absurd levels. Like, it's higher than Lizzie and higher than Carver. And it has really high resilience, so it's great as a tank. The only thing is, it doesn't come with any skills at all. And we're getting to this point where we can only have 4 people in our active party and 4 people in the reserves. And the thing about the Super Nintendo version is in order to even get into the post-game dungeon, we need to have at least one person and have 5 stars in each of the vocations. So it being so behind on skills means that it costs more time bringing it up to speed. But if all you want to do is fight the final boss, it's something you might want to consider recruiting. We're not getting it, though, so hopefully that all makes sense.
Interesting. Sounds kind of unbalanced, though.
It is. Anyways, here is the boss. Not super difficult, but it has some nasty tricks, which I'm going to tell you about when it starts.
Sure. Let's see what we'll be fighting.
Uh-oh. Sprites on the overworld.
No. That is just interesting, right?
Yep. So, the main danger in this fight is the red creature on the left. It has something called Death Dance, which can hit your party and has a 10% chance of killing whomever it hits. So, not likely to hit, but it can really ruin our day. So we want Carver to use Forbearance again. We want Ashlyn to use Mega Magic to clear out all the minions. And while it's doing that, Terry uses Focus Strength, and we reform the party like so. And we want Terry to use Double-Edged Slash. We want Amos to use Mercurial Thrust to go first, because he has the Dream Blade. He might put it to sleep, which he failed to this time, but it's something that could happen. And with all of that added up, it did just enough to kill him by round 2. Just enough. So, not as hard as previous bosses, but it can mess you up.
From what I understand, the only thing that can mess you up is the one-hit kill thing, but other than that, you just stomped it.
Well, the genie, it used a spell called Infermost or Kaswoosh. I think that did about 60 to 95 damage to everyone. And it has a fairly rough melee attack as well, so the main threat isn't so much that you'll lose, it's that you could lose a few people, which is still undesirable. Not the end of the world, but you want to prevent that if you can.
Interesting. Are we gonna fly to the demon world?
Very shortly. Right now, Peggy Sue is just enjoying her newfound freedom.
So it's a Pegasus now?
Huh?
It's a flying horse. It's a Pegasus, right?
Yep, Peggy Sue.
Interesting.
And it's a horse we got all the way back in part 2. We just thought it was a really beautiful, really strong horse, and that's it. And it's been pulling our wagon ever since. It's actually kind of a nice bit of foreshadowing in the remakes. It calling it Peggy Sue, and if you don't know it's a Pegasus, the pun just goes right over your head.
Is it just me, or is that like... To me it seems like it was kind of sudden to have just a horse play a major part in the story, like, without any warning. Maybe I missed something.
I don't know, maybe a little. But the hints were there, especially when you have that pun-tastic name and you're aware of how much the remakes like puns. Actually, one thing we should talk about, I gave a style upgrade to all of the dragon mail because all of the dragon equipment, because unfortunately we're going to have to do that best-dressed contest thing once again. And we want the Dragon's Bane, the Dragon Helm, the Dragon Shield, and the Dragon Armor upgraded because those give a style bonus, and those are the only fashionable things that Lizzie can equip, because the one that gives us the Sage's Stone, really important for beating the final boss, it's a monster-only style contest. So we want her to be decked out in the most stylish things we can. Plus, it only takes like 6,000 gold to fully upgrade everything. It's kind of neat that way.
Sure, and I just realized that the dragon is trapped in a little cage, but that's a small dragon, damn.
Well, it shrunk 2 sizes after we beat it up. It used to be bigger in part 10.
Why did it shrink though?
I guess Terry really messed it up.
Okay, sure, I can buy that.
Anyways, that's it for this episode. God bless everyone.
Okay. See you, YouTube.